January 10th. A lovely, lovely 4-gamer coming up tonight. I hope everybody had a successful Wednesday slate. I had a perfectly average Wednesday slate. Laffy, I didn't get to talk to you on Tuesday. What's going on, my man?
Oh, nothing, man. Nothing. Same old. Just life, you know?
I know.
But we're back.
We are.
We got a killer 4-gamer. We always seem to get the good ones, huh?
I'm dumb.
Wow, me.
I'm so dumb. I forgot to fill my coffee up before this. Ugh. It's going to be one of those days.
You might just want to go fill it up.
We'll be all right. I mean, I've already had a full coffee. This is just coffee number 2, so
okay.
I got some fuel in me.
Now, are you a Keurig guy?
I am not.
No?
Not that I'm opposed to it, but I drink a full pot of coffee in the morning, so volume-wise.
That's a lot of coffee.
Yeah, I would have to go up and down the stairs so many times. That's a lot of walking.
It's a bit much.
Yeah, sometimes it's just too aggressive. We were for a time. We had the coolest thing for a while, and it was just the biggest piece of shit from a manufacturing perspective, but I wanted it to work. We have one of those office water coolers. Not the typical one where you put the bottle in the top, but there's like a cartridge at the bottom that you could, or like a door that you put it in. So it loads from the bottom. But this one also had an ability to put K-cups in the top, and it had heated water. So you never had to fill the water thing up. You just hit the button, put your coffee cup where you would normally put your water bottle, hit the button for the coffee, and you would just have your cup of coffee. It was awesome. It was like the perfect way to do it. Constant water source. Yeah. So we bought it at Costco. It broke within 2 weeks. We take it back to Costco, return it, grab a new one. Breaks within 2 weeks. Do it one last time, breaks again. So I do the research. Terrible, terrible issues. Apparently, because of like the heating element and using it as a Keurig, it trips like an internal breaker constantly. So it was the biggest piece of garbage, but it worked just phenomenally for like 2 weeks. Yeah.
What a shame.
Yeah, it was a bummer.
How long ago was this?
Shit. Probably 5 years ago. Before I got married.
You should go find one. I bet they fixed them by now.
I've been searching. I haven't seen one that exists anywhere. I would happily get it.
I bet it's out there. I bet they fixed it. I bet you'd be happy.
What's weird is we have the exact same model water cooler now. It just doesn't have the Keurig capability. So I think they were just like, you know what? We'll stick to what we know. Kind of like me playing PGA today. Just stick to what you know. NBA Strategy is the promo code. We'll get the plugs out of the way quickly. If you're interested in checking us out, if you use that promo code or coupon code, I know that terminology can be confusing, but they are one and the same. If you use the code NBA Strategy, you get 50% off your first month with Awesemo.com. Any package you'd like. So come check us out. If you want to try out Fantasy Cruncher, you got to make sure you select the Fantasy Cruncher package as well. It doesn't come in automatically. That's it for plugs for today. I mean, go to Thrive. They are our presenting sponsor on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but I'll shout them out at least. If you want to play a fantasy game and you want to take a look at prop bets, that's the spot to do it. Do we have any ownership projections out yet? We do. Thank you, Tom. I'm going to grab those and then we can get started. PGA, I'm coming for you this week. Thank you, Yahoo, for the no rake. Yahoo, being good for the people in daily fantasy right now.
Yeah, they're getting at it, huh?
They're trying.
See how long it works.
I would love for them to invest even $15 in the ability to like track your lineups either on the app or on the website, because they don't appear to be in any real order. Makes it mildly difficult.
No, they need to make some fixes. Like even if you don't, even if you're limiting to like 10 entries per content, you got to make some fixes, easier lineup edits across everything. Like there's just
same goes for FanDuel and DK, by the way. Improve your mobile and tracking experience.
Yeah, I was actually really pissed the day that DraftKings got rid of the desktop. Like I couldn't use the desktop site on my phone because that's what I always used.
Right.
It was a lot easier. If I wanted to make a quick move, I could do that. And then I'd go to it and it would do like the mobile website,
Right.
and it was garbage.
Yep.
So then it's like, fine, you got me, you win, I'll use your app. And it's not like the app is bad, but I know I'm probably in the minority here, but I actually liked being able to use the desktop site on my phone because I was familiar with it. And there's just, you can do more on it. There's no real limitations. So, yeah, but with Yahoo, they're improving the product. Now just make it so it's easier to adjust your they just make the experience a little easier for everybody.
Yeah, it's tracking your own lineups is almost impossible if you play a bunch.
Mhm.
Such a pain. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I know what the answer is. The answer is to break down this lovely 4-game slate on that we have in front of us today with a just absolute barn burner to start.
Well, let's do it.
Alrighty. The Miami Heat. This is the solo 7 o'clock game. The next game starts at 9 p.m. So be aware that we probably will have very little news for the late 3 games. Great stuff. And the first game is the least appealing game from a fantasy perspective.
Well, it's rough when right now our ownership projections have Marco Bellinelli as the third highest owned player right now.
Oh, God, here we go.
That's rough.
Miami Heat 105 implied total. Boston Celtics 107. So Celtics 2-point favorites in Miami. We'll start on the Miami side. We have Hassan Whiteside 7,500 on FanDuel, 6,800 on DraftKings, $26 on Yahoo. This is not really that appealing of a spot for me. So maybe instead of starting with Whiteside, just sort of start with the Heat as a whole. Is there anybody coming out of Miami that stands out to you as a core play for you?
Core play, no. Look,
yeah.
I wish I could say that Hassan Whiteside was a top play, and it's not that I don't have interest, but I mean the guy had 12 and 11, a strong double after 24 minutes, and never returned to the game last time out against Denver.
Yeah,
just never came back in. But it didn't matter, right? Like he was dominating on the boards, but it hasn't mattered. Spoelstra's using, Adebayo and giving him half of the center minutes. Actually, Adebayo has played more minutes than Whiteside over their last 2 games. So it's kind of concerning. I mean, 6,800 seems like a price where you'd want to jump on, and on a 4-game slate, you could definitely make sense of that, no question, because if Whiteside does come out and get 30 minutes, right? We saw that against Washington. We saw it against Toronto back on the 26th of December. But it's really unpredictable, and at this rate, they seem few and far between. So I don't mind it. I think 6,800 still gives you plenty of. That's the thing about Whiteside, is that at 66 or 6,800, he can still be a really big disappointment. Or at 6,800, he can be winning you tournaments.
Yep.
But it's not like 6,800 is a lock it in type price for Whiteside, where, earlier in the season that would probably have been the case. It's just not anymore.
No, not at all. He's weird in that every minute that you think he's going to play is so much more important than basically every other minute on the slate. Because if he gets to 30, he's the nut center for the day. Especially because
minutes,
Hassan Whiteside, if Hassan Whiteside plays 30 minutes, it's almost like it has to be because he's playing well, basically.
Yeah. Even when he is playing well, sometimes he doesn't get close to that, and that's the scary thing.
Right.
But yeah, if he does, it means he's playing well for sure. And then, and it's another funny thing. This is why it's so difficult. Look at Derrick Jones Jr. His minutes had been 25, 31, 20, 29. And Derrick Jones Jr. has actually been playing really well, right? He's been actually contributing to this team offensively and defensively.
Now he's getting Deion Waiters coffee.
Right. He's no stud, don't get me wrong. But he had a DNP-CD the other day, so he didn't even come off the bench.
Yeah, they have
And
too
then
many dudes.
James Johnson's minutes are all over the place because you have Kelly Olynyk, whose minutes are also all over the place. None of these guys are even remotely reliable or predictable from a playing time standpoint. And the problem is a lot of them, even if they are, say, Kelly Olynyk or James Johnson, it's not like, oh, if I get 28 minutes from Olynyk, he's going to smash. No, you still need Olynyk to be decent with those minutes.
Yeah. Kelly Olynyk revenge narrative here?
Oh, man. I'd like to think not.
Okay. Me too. 3,900 for him, though, on DraftKings. If he is going to play in the mid-20s minutes, turns into one of the better value plays of the day.
Yeah, it's really not terrible.
No.
But that kind of just illustrates what type of slate we're dealing with.
Yeah. Josh Richardson, $21 on Yahoo, is probably my favorite thing of anything from Miami. But it's really hard to key in on these guys. Whiteside could play 28 minutes, and Bam can play 20. Bam could play 28 minutes, and Whiteside could play 20. I don't really have any way to know how that shakes out. I expect Richardson to play 32-plus minutes. Winslow, by all accounts, is going to need like 28-plus. And that sort of all depends on how much Waiters is going to play. James Johnson now back down to 20 minutes. Tyler Johnson back down to 20 minutes. Is Dwayne Wade like the third most reliable person on this team now from a fantasy perspective?
Probably, but honestly, I'm considering Dion Waiters. It sounds crazy, right? But
3,500 on DraftKings.
3,500, right? He's 3,500. He went from 11 minutes in his first game to 25 minutes in his second game.
He could easily not play tonight too. That's the most ridiculous thing, and we'd never know it probably.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Just kind of look at the roster now that the players are getting healthy. It's horrible. Spoelstra ran a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11-man rotation last game. And with an 11-man rotation,
if they don't make trades before this trade deadline, they're asleep at the wheel.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense. Popcorn Machine has Adebayo at 12 minutes. That definitely didn't happen.
For this most recent game?
Yeah, it definitely didn't happen.
They split 24 and 24.
Exactly. It has him playing the entire fourth quarter and nothing else. Yeah, that's not the case. But still, an 11-man rotation, that's with Derek Jones Jr. not playing at all. So, it's not really easy. Oh, and that's with Wayne Ellington not playing at all because he hasn't played for, I think, a couple of weeks now. So you just have so many players on this team, so many minutes to go, only so many minutes to go around. So now, like, Rodney McGruder is not getting the playing time. Tyler Johnson's played under 20 minutes in back-to-back games. There's just nothing about this team that's appealing right now. And because of that, maybe I'll take a shot at 25 minutes from Dion Waiters and hope it works out. Like Dwayne Wade, I think his playing time is pretty reliable here, but by reliable, I mean 24 to 28 minutes.
Yeah.
29 minutes tops like we saw last game. And a lot of time his minutes are contingent upon how well he's playing. It's not a team for fantasy purposes that you want to talk. At least last year and years before, we had Whiteside, who we could pretty much know that we were going to be good there. Like you could play Whiteside.
Yeah.
But that's not even there anymore. And the crazy thing is, Josh, Goran Dragic still isn't back. So when he comes back, like next month, what are you going to do?
You got to unload some legitimate rotation pieces then.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 11 guys projected in right now, and I'm not including Wayne Ellington. I'm not including Dragic.
Right.
That's 13,
exactly.
13 dudes. And if there might be a 14th, I'd have to look at their roster. Not Duncan Robinson.
It's bad.
I don't know who Yante Martin is. We still got Haslam at the end of the bench.
I know. Incredible, isn't it?
Trade a couple of these guys. Take back like one bad contract or something. Do something. There's too many
No,
dudes. There's too many bodies.
it makes life tough to do anything with this team.
Yeah. Like, there are plenty of teams in the league that need depth. You don't think Philly would love to have Wayne Ellington right now for next to nothing?
Mm-hmm.
Or, I mean, insert two shooting
No,
guard,
you're
small
right.
forward guy
You're
here.
right, though. Philly would be an ideal team just to get any bench depth.
Right.
Whereas this team, basically the Miami Heat are bench depth.
Yeah.
Like they are a team loaded with bench players. Aside from like Whiteside and sure Richardson's okay and Winslow's all right. That's really what they are. I mean, they could just offload this entire team, start from scratch, and I'm sure they could get rid of everyone.
Honestly, it's insanity. It's absolute insanity. I don't know who to recommend. Confidence in Richardson is high, but 30% expected ownership on FanDuel, 28% on DK. It seems like everybody else knows what we're talking about.
And
otherwise, there's like 7 other dudes that you can conceivably be playing. And on a 4-game slate, like you have to mildly look here.
What is the ceiling you're getting with Richardson? And granted, I get that he's cheap, so I'm not going to harp on this, but what type of ceiling are you getting with Richardson when you're talking about now Dwayne Wade's playing plenty of minutes. Dion Waiters could be playing the minutes. There's just so many bodies out here, and while none of them are super high usage guys, there's still a bunch of mouths to feed on this team. It's ugly, man. If you're playing say 150 lineup, this is a spot where you just say, what I end with from this team, I what I land on, I land on. Assuming you have them capped and you don't end up on 100% Richardson.
Right.
Other than that, you can't prioritize anyone here right now unless we get news. And even if you were to get news, it's like, okay, now that 11-man rotation is just another 11-man rotation with Wayne Ellington instead of insert or remove player here.
Yeah, I'm with you. The only plus side to this game is that it should stay close. So if you think that you could hash out who's in the closing lineup for the Heat, those should be the guys that you're looking for. And you're probably looking a little bit closer on DraftKings than FanDuel because that's where the better pricing lies.
Although Boston's been playing some real good basketball lately.
They beat the brakes off of the Pacers last night. They put up 130 points in regulation.
Crazy, right? Crazy. Against a very good Pacers defense.
Yeah.
By the way, though, this is why predicting blowouts gets you nowhere. Like, we'll talk about them, and on the deeper dive, we'll talk about them and say, like, this is how it could result if it blows out. This is how it could result if it doesn't. If someone tells you that you need to predict blowouts and that's how to go about it's not true. No. Because everybody else is going to look at the line and say, okay, well, this game's a blowout. I'm going to avoid it for that reason. So why would you be one of them? We just saw Atlanta lose by 3 to Toronto. We just saw Cleveland stick around close enough to get their starter run on the second of a back-to-back. Like, we'll talk about it, but to assume that you need to be able to predict blowouts and that is a part of your game, well, it doesn't make sense because you can't do it. Like, Josh, you cannot. Of course, you have a Vegas line, so that gives you something, and there might be something that says, all right, like, I'll make exceptions. Certain games you're like, there's just no way. But how many times just in the past week have there been games that look like they're going to be a complete rout and they stay competitive the whole time, and you're left with no piece of that game?
Raptors Hawks 2 days ago was like a 14-point line.
Exactly.
The Hawks led that game until like the last 90 seconds.
Yep. And if you had, I didn't have Leonard. I had a ton of Lynn.
Yeah. Same.
But it
had a ton of Bembry
you had
too.
Leonard, Lynn, John Collins.
Yeah.
And then don't, just predicting blowouts. It just, all it does is get you into trouble because, really none of us are any better at it than the next guy. And there's it's an 82 game season. So
the key for those things is to make sure that when you're using guys from games that have big totals, and we'll use that Hawks Raptors game as an example, make sure that the pieces that you put in that lineup fit together for a particular game script. If you're worried about the blowout, then maybe you don't have like the Hawks starters in there with Kawhi Leonard.
Exactly. Right. The
Like
sixth
you can
man.
use that information and plan for that scenario, but like don't mix and match and be like, oh, I'm gonna play. What would be a good example? Like DeLon Wright, because I think the Raptors blow them out, and then I have Trae Young.
Exactly. And you don't like, or just fading a game entirely because it might be a blowout.
Right.
It doesn't help. You know, when you look at it, the sixth man is usually the one that suffers most in a blowout because he doesn't see that last rotation, and if he does, it's shortened. But there's just so many different ways. So is there, in that Raptors Hawks game, if we ran that back 100 times, the Hawks are going to get blown out, let's say, I don't know, more than 50% of the time, but there's still going to be a decent amount of games where they're competitive through 3 quarters.
Yeah.
And the lines can also be deceiving because there might be a 10-point spread. The Hawks may still lose by 10 points, but Toronto pulls away midway through the fourth quarter, with a 15-0 run, because that's what better teams do. Better teams buckle down in late in the game, where other teams can't keep up. So just because a game has a big line and a wide spread doesn't mean that means the entire game is going to have that much separation. There's just so many different ways that a game can see all of these players play their regular minutes, without losing run in a blowout.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And, Tom and Alex have talked about it in some articles, or Tom popped into Slack yesterday and mentioned it. Like, they don't look at it. That it's not a factor for them. So I'll tend to defer to the people that are at the top of the leaderboards and not just the general public. They're not paying attention to it. So why would I not think that's the way to go?
Right. Because everyone's looking at the spread.
Yeah. We all know the same stuff. All right. Celtics. Pour one out for anybody that had Kyrie yesterday. I don't think that you could have assumed that. I mean, it's not, he was fine, but who could have seen that everyone else if everyone's cooking for Boston, Kyrie doesn't exactly need to go out there and bust his ass.
I know.
They had a 64.8 effective field goal percentage yesterday. That's their third highest on the season. The two above them were a home game against the Wolves, not exactly a juggernaut defensively. A home game against the Cavs. I don't think I need to go any further. And then it's above games against Chicago, Atlanta, New York. What they did against the Pacers yesterday is so far off of what you could have ever expected as a game script. That that's it's not that Kyrie was bad. It's just that he didn't have to do shit because everyone else was cooking.
Yeah, and the worst part is everyone else was cooking, and Boston, by the way, had a lot of assists in that game.
Yeah.
Right? They had a lot of assists in that game. They had at least 30 assists for the 5th straight game. But guess what? Irving wasn't involved there either. No. And because it's a blowout, Brad Stevens in blowouts just pulls Kyrie Irving really early.
Yeah.
And he played 24 minutes. That was one of the most unusual and unpredictable things ever. If you saw 135 points, you'd be like, all right, even if Irving only played 25 minutes, he's got to have 28 and 8.
How many overtimes did that game go to? Would have been my first question.
Yeah, it's crazy.
With that said, he's 8,400 today again on FanDuel. He's a fantastic play. Don't let yesterday matter at all in your decision-making process. He's still one of the better values on FanDuel at any position because of that price tag.
Yes, he is.
And his ownership's at 30%, so it's not like that's craziness.
But outside of him, the same thing with Boston. Or the same thing with Miami. I just have a tough time getting to these guys. And it's if you are getting here, it's simply going to be because they're not too expensive, and the rest of the position doesn't really offer much. But I mean, really, Al Horford's minutes have been limited. He left yesterday's game for a little bit and then came back, but
Yeah.
still, he was probably only going to play he played 18 in the blowout. He was limited to 22 to 28, which is an interesting range. But I don't really have much interest in Al Horford. All of these guys are, barely secondary plays, and I only say that because it's a 4-game slate. I mean, with Irving back and Boston healthy and Morris back, Gordon Hayward's not on my list.
Nope.
Uh,
FanDuel at
especially
5,500, you could talk me into it.
Yeah, you could talk you into it, I guess, but I'd prefer someone to talk me out of it instead.
Sure.
Here's the thing about Hayward is just that, and I know he's getting decent run without some of the starters out there, but man, when they are out there with him, his usage just goes in the tank. So yeah, I'm sure you could do worse, but this is a Boston team that not just tonight, but most nights, if there's not an injury, if someone's not out, it's a real tough team for me to get to anyone confidently.
Couldn't agree more. The FanDuel pricing is a little soft, but it's being shown in the ownership. Marcus Morris is only $4,700. He's $900 more expensive on DraftKings. You kind of have to look at that on a 4-game slate.
Oh yeah, I agree with that entirely. That's perfectly reasonable.
Sure.
But at 5,600 on DraftKings, he's a lot less of a priority.
Yeah, on DK, just basically across the board, they're all either similarly priced or way overpriced. Same like Jaylen Brown, 4,200 tonight, 4,500 on DraftKings. You can get to these guys a little bit easier from Boston on FanDuel. DraftKings is a really tough sell. Like you're gonna have a hard time getting value back on $5,600 Marcus Morris.
Yeah, and like Rozier, sure, he's been efficient
Gonna play
over the last couple of games, but he's playing 20 minutes, and that was in blowouts too. So yeah, I don't mind moving on to the next game if you want.
Yeah, this particular game will be filler. That's really the only it's outside of, to me, Kyrie is the only legitimate play on FanDuel where you don't even have to bat an eye. You can jam that one in there. Fantastic cash option as well. Denver Nuggets hosting the Los Angeles Clippers. 115.75 implied total for the Nuggets. 110.25 for the Clips. 5.5-point favorites in Denver. Honestly, a little surprised it's not a little higher. A little bit of a pace-up spot for the Nugs. We'll start with Jokic here. $11K on FanDuel, $10.5 on DraftKings, $45 on Yahoo. He looks fantastic here. Who stops him?
No, and if you look at this team, or if you look at the slate altogether, well, you don't exactly have a litany of high-priced guys. You've got Westbrook, and then you have Jokic. You have Paul George in there, who is below 10K on DraftKings, which we can talk about. And then like Griffin and Drummond on the second of a back-to-back on the road, but I'm not too concerned about that. We'll talk about that later on in the show. By the way, some disappointing performances from Drummond and Griffin yesterday. We'll talk about that. That was pretty wild.
Yeah,
with how bad the Lakers have been. Lakers defense has actually been top 3 since LeBron went down, but they have the worst offense in the league over that span. But sticking with this game, over the last month, Denver's actually, or in terms of pace, they are still bottom 5 in the league in pace. Memphis, Chicago, Miami, and Cleveland are playing at slower paces than them, and then it's Denver, 96.8 possessions per 48. Whereas on the other side of this, you have the Clippers playing at the 7th fastest pace, 102.4. It's a significant pace up spot here.
Yeah.
And I think, Jokic just being as fundamentally good as he is, and the ability just to give you big numbers in every category. But what I like most about Jokic, and this is the most important thing right now, I mean, you look at his volume, just his shot volume lately, his usage, it's been through the roof over the last 4 games. Has he sacrificed assists for that a little bit? Yeah, sure, but I'll take 6 to 8 assists if you're going to take 18 to 22 shots.
Absolutely.
Right. And the rebounding has still been solid. This is a good game. It's also a Clippers team that when you look at how they've fared against opposing centers this year, they've been really bad. Only the Suns allow more points to centers than the Clippers. They're allowing what in terms of rebounding? They're one of the worst teams in rebounding. They're allowing the third most assists to big men this year. So if you just go across the list, and then in shot blocking, the third most blocks. So across the board, they're allowing a ton of points. And a lot of that can be attributed just to the fact they play at a fast pace. So there's going to be more counting stats to go along, more possessions. But I mean, we will definitely take that. Another thing, only two teams, the Suns and Lakers, are allowing more shot volume to centers this year. It is a very, very good spot for Jokic across the board. I'm with you. I like him a lot here. It just comes down to if you're playing, okay, here's the question. Maybe you can try and get both, but I'll ask you. Jokic is 10-5 on DraftKings. Westbrook is 11-3.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing one of them, who is it?
I'll give you my answer right now. Neither? I don't know. It's probably not the answer.
Really?
No,
it doesn't. I haven't made any lineups yet, so I don't have a preferred answer.
I got 21% Jokic on my first DK crunch. I got 15% Westbrook. So they're both super, super, super close to each other. Let me see how often I have them hitting targets.
How much Paul George did you get there would be my question.
25.
Okay, I assumed you had a decent amount.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, you must have some Griffin or Drummond in there.
Yeah, a lot. That's my problem.
Right.
I have Russ and Jokic as what amounts to coin flips, with Russ having a bit more value just because it looks like point guard is not as interesting tonight on DraftKings. So if I have to pick between the two, it's God, my love for Nikola Jokic is so hard to get away from. I mean, I would lean towards Russ simply because that's where this is pushing me, and I'd be lying if I said something otherwise. But that is not an indictment on Jokic. They both look fantastic in the high end.
Yeah, it makes things tough because Jokic is very, very expensive right now. But I think this spot warrants it. And plus, if we're just going to look at this rationally, the guy has been putting up monstrous fantasy totals and really justifying the salary. So it's not like you're saying, "Oh man, I'm overpaying for Jokic." No, it's a fair. It's higher than I'd like, but I wish he was 8,500. It's a good spot, a good price point with the shot volume that we're seeing. Again, though, you look at his last 5 games, his usage. God, if I had to guess, I haven't actually pulled it up, but if I had to guess, his usage has got to be at or around 30% over his last 5 games since and that is, I like seeing this too. It's nice and neat since the 1st of January. So yeah, I certainly like that.
I like a lot of Denver actually tonight, particularly on FanDuel, where again,
What do you got?
Their pricing is just crazy. I'm just going to list off a bunch of people. Jamal Murray is my number 3 point guard. Paul Millsap is my number 3 power forward. Gary Harris, if he's playing tonight at 5K on FanDuel, is my number 2 shooting guard. You can talk me into a little bit of Malik Beasley as a potential drop at 3,900. These guys' prices are just too low on FanDuel here.
So get this. Over his last 5 games, Jokic has a 36.6% usage rate, a 41% assist rate, a 20.3% rebounding rate, and 1.77 DraftKings points per minute. 37% usage, 41% assist, 20% rebounding. Yo, that's I get that it's only 5 games, Josh. I get that. But that's astronomical.
That's insane.
That is.
Those are some best offensive center in the league numbers right there.
Right, you're right now it is. Right now you're damn right. Yeah, I'm just seeing that, understanding it's only 5 games. I get that, but I kind of don't care. Like I that's hard for me to get away from. It looks like a switch has been flipped.
Yeah. And maybe it's just maybe it has a lot to do with playing less minutes with Mason Plumlee and more with an actual power forward.
Yeah, that could certainly be the case.
Probably doesn't hurt.
Well, I don't know, because Mason Plumlee was shooting like twice a game. That the offense that they had with Harris and Millsap out was actually, you would assume that it would have filtered more through Jokic, more of everything through Jokic.
I just assume that everything would be a little bit tighter. Let me look at their offensive rating with Jokic and Plumlee on, and then with just Jokic on. That kind of, it's interesting to me.
While you do, I'll mention Murray real quick.
Talk about the rest of Denver.
Yeah, I just like. Do I like Murray here? Yeah, I think he's fine, but I'd like that price to come back down into the mid 6K range. I just think you're on DraftKings at least. I think Murray's a little bit pricey there. On FanDuel, I'm okay with it, but given Jokic, given his volume right now, his usage, it's not to say that Murray can't still put up big numbers and still get a large amount of a large helping of the shot volume. But you still have guys like Gary Harris that are going to shoot more than Beasley, and Paul Millsap, who's going to shoot more than Plumlee. So the offensive lineup, there's a bit less to go around, especially if Jokic is going to continue at this rate. So I don't mind Murray. I'm just not particularly high on him. As far as Gary Harris goes, if he can get back up to the 30 minutes or so, that'd be nice. But he is so scoring dependent that it makes life really tough when he's only playing 26, 27 minutes. He's also questionable here, so I don't even know if he's going to play.
I'm nervous for it. I mean, I have him in right now just because of the questionable tag. And I don't get the sense that they have no need to rush him back. They've had so many injuries this year.
Yep.
They have plenty of wing bodies to keep moving through this. They're at home against the Clippers. It's not some game it's not a do or die game. It's not the game to close out the season last year where winner gets in. Like they're not going to play Gary Harris unless he feels good.
Honestly, I know he's been terrible. I feel like I'd rather play Dennis Schroeder at 4,800 on DraftKings and save it like $1,000.
Oh, I don't disagree with that at all. I'm only playing Gary Harris on FanDuel because he's 5K.
Right. See, that you have to draw that differentiation for sure.
Yeah.
Right. Because Gary Harris at 5K on FanDuel, that's $1,500 above the minimum.
Yeah.
On DraftKings, he's $2,600 above the min, whereas Dennis Schroeder's price keeps falling. And all you have to know is both Schroeder and Harris, both of them are very capable of giving you really bad games. And Schroeder can give you 30 fantasy points. It's not to say that he will, but it's not like he's any riskier than Gary Harris is pretty much how it is.
Now, like I have Schroeder as my 5th shooting guard. I have Gary Harris at 18 on DK. That's just,
there you go.
That's how different the pricing is.
Right. Yeah, there you go.
So I'm going to have a lot of the top 3, at least for Denver. Jokic, Murray, Millsap on FanDuel. Jokic, Murray, Millsap on Yahoo as well. And then based on the Gary Harris news, if he's in, he's clearly a part of my FanDuel stuff. He'll be a part of my Yahoo stuff. If he's out, you need to look a little bit closer at Malik Beasley. You need to look a little bit closer at Monty Morris. Torrey Craig is generally not that kind of guy.
I'll say this one thing before we move on to the Clippers.
Yeah.
You can rip on Malik Beasley all you want because he's really not that great, and I think we're all aware of that. But he's had some pretty solid games. Not only that, but more importantly, last game he played 36 minutes. All right, 36 wildly inefficient minutes.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, 36 minutes on a 4-game slate where one game is Miami-Boston and it's kind of a 3-game slate. If I'm getting 35 or so minutes from Beasley in the starting lineup at 3,800, you could do worse if Marco Bellinelli is going to be 40% owned. You know, like it. You can't tell me at 36 minutes Beasley can't stumble into a 25 fantasy point game. He doesn't have to be great. You don't have to like him. I don't particularly like him. But if you're going to get that type of run with Harris out of the lineup, and Mike Malone's going to trust you to be out there, well, I'll take the chances that you can just fall into a at least serviceable game.
Absolutely. If you can get 30 plus minutes out of Beasley, he becomes one of the better value plays on the slate
by default.
There's just no other way to look at it.
Right.
It's a minutes play on a 4-gamer. Let's talk Clippers. 110.25 implied total, as I mentioned. Nuggets defense hasn't been fantastic lately, but getting Millsap back should help that. Pace down spot. Everybody's priced where they should be by all accounts. The highest ranked guy I have on any site is Lou Will for $24 on Yahoo. He's 4th as a shooting guard. Other than that, like everybody's in the 6th or 7th range, so no one stands out to me as someone I want to go crazy to put in a lineup. No issues going to Tobias Harris. No issues going to Gallo. Montrezl Harrell for 7,600 on FanDuel is just way overpriced.
Yep. Given his wildly inconsistent minutes.
Yeah. I won't prioritize a piece of the Clippers. They'll have low ownership for me. I'll take what I can get. But I can't imagine going to anybody here at like the start of a lineup build if I were building a single lineup.
Yep, and I'll move that to DraftKings for you. Danilo Gallinari at 7,100 is that's a tough ask. You know, I know he's been pretty solid, but do you really pay that much for Gallo? I have trouble doing it. Look, he's been perfectly fine, but is 35, 37 fantasy points perfectly fine. The ceiling's just so limited on Gallinari because, what he does, he goes out, he shoots like, 6 for 13, 7 for 15, which isn't bad. But he's just not one of those players that routinely stuffs the box score. And if I'm gonna go with Gallo, or I'd rather just go with Harris, who I know has a little bit higher of a ceiling, but both of them are similar in that you're just not, getting big games from. And on a slate like this, sometimes you have to make sacrifices and be like, all right, fine, I'm not going to do that. But we still haven't talked about a couple of other games where there are players that are priced beneath them or in the same area, in the same price tier as them that I would rather have. Montrezl Harrell 6,500 on DraftKings. I don't think that's crazy. It's not the worst spot that you could get to. He played 30 minutes last game. There's no question his minutes are all over the place, but in tournaments on a 4-game slate, you can risk that because he is someone that when he's playing well, when he's out there and running right, Montrezl Harrell can have some really solid games, and we've seen it. Last game, almost 50 fantasy points. Montrezl Harrell has a ceiling.
Yeah.
And at 65, I think that's perfectly reasonable. But I'm with you. Outside of that, all of these guys are priced like almost perfectly, and not perfect as in, oh, what a perfect spot to play them, but just they're priced where they should be, which makes them pretty tough to play. And like Lou Will had 50 fantasy points last game. He played 25 minutes. I don't know how I can stomach paying $7K for this guy.
No, not at all. I can pay the 24 on Yahoo and hope that he gets to 45 as a ceiling.
Yeah, I think 24 is perfectly fine. Yeah,
but otherwise, it's a lot of guys that are priced where they're supposed to be. Like everybody's been relatively healthy for the Clippers for a hot minute, so their prices have stabilized to like where they're at in their rotation. So barring anybody coming in, barring a late scratch Gortat thinking that we're going to get like 18 Boban minutes, which that's what we need right now. We need guys to not play to open up anything for the Clippers.
Yep. And the guard rotations just completely it's a complete stay away right now, right? Whether it's Avery Bradley, Gilgeous-Alexander, Patrick Beverley, Tyrone Wallace, they're all playing between like 18 and 25 minutes a game.
Oh, Clippers are ugly for this, man. Super ugly. 25% expected ownership to Gallo on FanDuel right now. That's healthy. What did I get on my first crunch? Because the answer might actually be 0.
I just Paul George at 9,700 on FanDuel is just entirely too cheap based on what he's done.
I got 13% Gallo. Yeah, I got 44% George on FanDuel. Okay, let's get to that game, I guess. I don't have anything else for Denver and Clippers.
Yeah, let's do it, because the more I look at small forward on FanDuel, I can understand why you're going to have some Josh Richardson, why you entertain Gordon Hayward.
Yeah.
It is a rough position.
Yep, a little bit of a wasteland. San Antonio Spurs hosting the Oklahoma City Thunder, 110.75 implied total for the Spurs, 112.25 for the Thunder. Defensive matchup, big time here, but the only good part coming out of it is really nice pace up spot for San Antonio. We've got a lot of really nicely priced guys on DraftKings. I'm going to read off some numbers here for DeRozan and Aldridge, since those guys are the two linchpins for San Antonio. First, third. Those are my rankings for FanDuel, DraftKings, and Yahoo for DeRozan first, and then Aldridge. These are probably my two favorite guys of the day.
Yeah, man. So I'll just start
do you see
by
Aldridge's
saying
ownership right now on DK?
Oh yeah, I mean, do you see all of San Antonio's ownership?
Yeah, that's true too.
On DraftKings, Aldridge, Bellinelli, DeRozan, Patty Mills is up there. Like, these guys are all towards the top.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy. Man. Yeah, with Aldridge, you don't really have much of a choice. It's funny too. You look at the last month, the Spurs are number 1 in defensive rating. The Spurs are number 1 in offensive rating. That's right, ahead of Houston, ahead of the Nuggets, ahead of every other team. It's pretty wild. They're also bottom 10 in pace. OKC though, this is the great thing, is the Thunder are a very good defensive team, but that only takes you so far.
Yeah,
because you're still going to allow scoring. No team's playing at a faster pace than Oklahoma over the last month. I love that, because you take their defense, you say, yeah, they're good. They are good, but they're still going to allow points. You're still going to see, I mean, rebounds alone, you're going to get at least 20 of them off of Russell Westbrook misses. So that works in your favor. It's really a spot that doesn't scare me as much as you would think, right? Like, Oklahoma is still allowing the middle of the road in points over the last month. And that has a lot to do with just such an elevated pace. So yeah, DraftKings, especially with this dynamic pricing based on, perceived difficult matchups, and maybe the guy's just not playing as well recently, it opens everything up. Yeah, they're going to be popular, but I think for good reason. LaMarcus Aldridge, huge pace up spot here. Everything kind of looks good. The only issue though is they are playing on a back-to-back, and you never know what Pop's going to do when it comes to these situations. But Aldridge played 30 minutes yesterday. He's actually played 31 or fewer minutes in 4 straight games here. A lot of them were blowouts. I'm probably going to put him around 31 minutes tonight. I don't feel comfortable putting him higher than that. We've just seen what it's looked like recently in these back-to-backs, the way Pop's been utilizing him. But at that price point, you kind of still have to go there.
Damian Lee in chat. I project DeRozan at 30 fantasy points. Whew. I got him just a hair higher than that at 45.
Do you have him at 45?
45 on FanDuel, 46 and 46.4 on DK.
I have him at 45 on DraftKings.
Yeah. He's been really nuts when Rudy Gay is not on the floor.
Well, it also helps when they're in competitive games.
Yeah. It also helps that the rest of the team is being filled out with Derek White and Jakob Poeltl and Bryn Forbes and Bertans and Patty Mills and guys that are like, yeah, DeMar DeRozan, do whatever the hell you want to do.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I have DeRozan projected for significantly more than that. And I think 83 on DraftKings is nice. Look, yesterday, throw that out the window. That was number one, a game where he just shot terribly. It was not an easy matchup. And for the first time in a while, by the way, Marc Gasol actually looked like he was somewhat back to himself. I read an article on him this morning with Marc Gasol that ankle that he injured back against Toronto, I forget what the day was, and he continues to play through it, has affected him to the point where defensively he has just looked like a shell of his old self. Well, finally, Marc Gasol looked a little bit better, at least offensively and on the boards yesterday. But Memphis defensively has really looked a lot less imposing recently, and the game saw 182 total points. I have no problem throwing this one out the window entirely. I had no interest in it to begin with, and this one now you go from San Antonio playing against literally the slowest paced team to the fastest paced team over the last month. Nice little boost here, so I'll take it, and they're all cheap. So yeah,
I'm gonna have so much of the San Antonio game. I know DeRozan's gonna be my most exposed player. I don't even know what would have to happen for that to not be the case.
I think I'll probably have a decent amount of Bertans just because I feel like I'll probably have to. It's not really a spot where Jakob Poeltl benefits. Played 27 minutes against Detroit, a much bigger front court, and then played 14 minutes against Memphis. This is one of those games where you've got your Jeremy Grants soaking up minutes at the 4. You got Aldridge at the 5, and it'll probably, you would think, make the most sense to Aldridge sees most of his minutes at the 5. Bertans plays at the 4. I would think that makes the most sense here.
Yeah, I think we'll see a couple extra minutes of Jeremy Grant at the 5 now with Noel out. You'll get a couple extra minutes going to Patrick Patterson, but I think Grant and Adams probably just soak it all up in this particular spot.
You would think so,
especially if the game is close. And I don't know. Well, if it's the Spurs, so the chances of this game being close are pretty small. They're either going to put a beating on the Thunder or they're going to get their asses handed to them. And over the past 6-8 weeks, they've been throwing out a lot more beatings and taking them.
I mean, they've really been incredibly good recently, and they're doing it with just mostly a team of supporting cast. So, yeah.
This might be Pop's best coaching job ever. They are 9th in net rating for the season right now. They have the 5th highest offensive rating.
The first month of the year, they were bottom 3 in defensive rating, and they've just improved dramatically.
Would you have ever expected that a DeMar DeRozan, LaMarcus Aldridge-led team with no other legitimate, real rotation pieces? I mean, the Spurs guys are good. They are.
Rudy Gay's not a bad player, but
right.
Yeah, I get.
I just meant I was just looking at the the list of guys that we're in right now.
Right, no more Manu Ginobili.
They got nothing. I mean, I like some of these guys to be that highly ranked in offense in a league now where everyone lives and dies by the 3, and all they are doing is just running the smart offensive set.
You don't even have Dejounte Murray. So
no. Yeah, that's a good point. They're missing their starting point guard, who would have probably been, I don't know, out of the rotation right now. That's generally how Pop worked this. There's usually some mid-season malaise where Murray starts getting 6 minutes a game for 2 weeks.
Yeah, true. Except I expected him to play a huge role here.
So did I. Now that Parker's gone.
Yeah, if this were to be the case, but hey, he's gone. So you kind of have to play, Marco Bellinelli and guys like that. It's ugly, Davis Bertans and such. But what are you going to do?
On DK, there's just figuring out who's going to pop off between White, Poeltl, Forbes, Bertans. I probably the Mills and Bellinelli love is interesting to me. I get that Marco Bellinelli is $3,200 on DraftKings. That is not lost on me. You you expect him to get like a crazy amount of additional run today? Like, what are you going to do with Marco Bellinelli? You're the DK guy.
I mean, I'll have some of them, but if that ownership continues to project that high, I don't know how. Well, here's the thing. Like Marco Bellinelli on a slate like that, I don't know if it kills you to have him or not to have him, but there's a very good chance that Marco Bellinelli like goes out there and gives you 15 fantasy points. Actually, that's kind of what he does, right? It's kind of who he is.
Yeah.
You're just, if you're not going there, where are you going? But I don't know. I haven't made lineups yet, but I'm really going to try and avoid getting him in there. If I have to play some Marco Bellinelli, I suppose I will, but I'd rather, like, say Harris is out, I would so much rather go to Malik Beasley. I don't care if Beasley had a terrible game last time. I'll take my 34, 35, 36 minutes and once again hope that he stumbles into some rebounds and a couple of made field goals, right? Because like Derek White, people have been getting pretty fortunate with him lately. Look at his point totals compared to his volume, compared to his usage. It's ridiculous. 8 for 9 shooting, 8 for 11, 8 for 9 again. That's not going to continue.
No, not at all. Ted says, for all Pop's hatred of the three-pointer, San Antonio first in the league in three-point percentage at 39.7%. Yeah, they should be. They only take open threes. Mm-hmm. They are dead last in three-point frequency.
But their ball move, it's the ball movement, right?
They're only taking good threes.
Watch a San Antonio game. The way they swing the ball around the perimeter with guys that aren't even good at that. Like, they're just, it's really impressive the way that the ball moves. And it doesn't matter who the personnel is. The same thing is going to happen. Just brilliant ball movement and fast ball movement, getting it at, basically the rule is like, don't hold the ball for more than a second, just swing it around until the next guy is open. I'm looking at Derek White's advanced box scores and shot charts. Just looking at these, seeing where's he shooting from. He's shooting kind of from all over the place. A few in the paint, a few from 3-point range, a few mid-range shots, like 18-footers and such. I just have a tough time believing that he's going to continue shooting at such a ridiculously high clip, whether he's a decent overall shooter or not. That's tough.
I do not disagree, but who knows? It's the Spurs for you. They just,
and one weird thing about Derek White is if you watch it, he's not terrible at getting to the rim. It's just, there's really not a ton of opportunity to do it. Almost 30% of his shots are coming at the rim this year,
Spurs
which isn't
dead
bad
last in shots at the rim.
What's that?
Spurs are dead last in shots at the rim. Dead last in shots at the rim, dead last in threes. Number one across the board in mid-range.
That's not surprising to me, though, because DeMar DeRozan will drive, sure, but he's the king of the mid-range.
Yeah.
And then LaMarcus Aldridge is
the queen of the
just going to post. Right? Seriously, yeah. LaMarcus Aldridge lives in the post. He's just going to post you up. He leads the league in post-ups this year, 11.7 post-ups per game. 6 of his field goal attempts every game are on post-ups. So that makes sense to me, yeah.
2.5 games in, and we're at an hour. Fantastic.
Yeah, well, we're going to – honestly, I'm good to move on to OKC here if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, this one's a little bit easier to talk about. We got Russ at 12-1.
I can get through this in a couple seconds, actually.
We've got Russ at 12-1 on FanDuel, 11-3 on DK, $52 on Yahoo. He's going to be a solid piece of my lineups. 26% ownership on FanDuel, 27 on DraftKings. I'll probably be right around the field. I like Paul George significantly more just because of positional scarcity on FanDuel, but he looks great on DK as well. Adams is passable for me. No issue one way or the other. And I really like Dennis Schroeder for 5,200 on FanDuel.
Yeah, that's well, and 4,800 on DraftKings. I think Schroeder's perfectly fine too.
47% expected ownership kind of gives me a little bit of nerves.
Oh, dude, Of course it does, but so does 44% on Marco Bellinelli.
I can't disagree there.
That's just absurd. Uh, I don't mind. Well, when we get to here, how about this? Because there's someone I want to talk about in the next game. It's also probably going to be pretty high owned. I like him a little bit more than Schroeder. It might be. It's an ugly feeling, but you're gonna have to. You're gonna have to do it somewhere. Like Paul George a lot. He's literally having the best season of his career in almost every category. Continuously goes overlooked, and is still very capable of giving you big games night in and night out. And then with Russell Westbrook, it's him and Jokic. Right now, I'm leaning Jokic. I really am. Haven't made lineups yet. What's that?
Are you going to say that he's the best offensive center in basketball?
Well, see, the conversation was best center in basketball, and then you move the goalposts to best offensive center in basketball.
Yeah, so that I could be right.
Yeah, exactly. But being right when you move the goalpost isn't nearly as rewarding.
I mean,
but no, I think we pretty much got through OKC. It's actually kind of clear cut.
Yeah, it's a 4-game slate. You got to play these guys, and I think they look great. Right. Keep an eye on their ownership. Like if Dennis Schroeder's 47 on DK, I probably only want like 25. But it's not like I'm going to run all the way away.
No, and go open us up with the next game because there's someone here that's pretty interesting.
There's a lot of interesting here, I think. Well, more than there should be. Sacramento Kings hosting the Detroit Pistons. 114.75 implied total for the Kings, 109.75 for the Pistons. So Kings 5-point favorites at home. Late night hammer. This is a huge pace up spot for the Pistons, but we'll start on the Sacramento side. There's just a lot of like second tier plays here, whether that's Fox, Willie Cauley-Stein, Buddy Hield, Bogdan, Bielitsa on FanDuel and Yahoo. I'd probably just avoid Marvin Bagley. If Shump is back again, FanDuel and Yahoo looks pretty good. So are you looking at anybody in particular from the Kings?
So in particular from the Kings on this slate, yeah, I am. And it's really just going to come down to pricing. So for example, De'Aaron Fox, some people were talking about like he's hurt. I think he may have been a little banged up. I think he just had a couple bad games. De'Aaron Fox at 7,600 to me is perfectly fine. 8,600 on FanDuel. Not when Irving's 8,400. That's a little shaky, but on DraftKings he's still $1,400 less expensive. He's only $300 more than Jamal Murray, and I think Fox is a better play than Murray today. But yeah, De'Aaron Fox to me makes for a strong play. I expect his minutes to be back up, plus 30. So I'll have some of him. Is he a priority? No, but he's definitely not somebody I'm worried about either. But Willie Cauley-Stein to me is somebody at this price point that I really like. I'll tell you a couple things this year. And normally, home road splits aren't something that matter all that much. But check this out. He's played 21 home games and 20 away games. He's averaging 31.2 minutes at home, 25.5 minutes on the road. So almost 6 additional minutes at home this year. Fantasy points, 36 at home, 28 on the road. So just vast differences in minutes and production at home. And we continue to see that. Like look at his last home, not the one against Orlando. Was there a reason he played 18 minutes there? I forgot to look if there was a reason. Because against Golden State, 32 minutes, and at Denver, 30 minutes, Portland, 33 minutes, all home games. I'm wondering, am I missing
the game with Bagley
something?
back? Giles played. I think Costa Koufos played. Something happened. Nothing like it was either foul trouble or maybe I'm wrong. My memory's dog shit.
So I would expect those minutes to balance themselves out or balance as the season wears on. It only makes sense. Like there's no reason you should be playing 6 fewer minutes on the road. But at home this year, outside of that Orlando game, his playing time had been remarkably consistent. If you just look throughout everything, will it continue? I wish I could tell you, but I do think 6,600 is a good price. And here's why. Opposing coaches, whether they want to or not, really do have to change things up in the front court against this Detroit front court because you have Drummond and Blake in there, right? We saw Pirtle play 27 minutes. We've seen, how many teams just run bigger front court tandems out there to try and combat Detroit's, which means that I would expect Willie Cauley-Stein here to get a lot, and they have enough big guys that can make it happen. I think Willie Cauley-Stein's run here is going to be very secure. Yeah. And because of that, 6,600 just to me seems too inexpensive.
Yeah, I have him in for 32 minutes. He's my number 3 center on FanDuel even. I'm a big Willie Cauley-Stein fan. That's generally the case. I only have him behind Drummond and Jokic tonight at center on FanDuel, and I guess we're going to get to Drummond in a little bit, but having a lot of this game will be appealing. And it doesn't appear to have like crazy high amounts of ownership. It's a lot of people getting many bites at the apple, whereas I think that I'll probably have a lot more high-end volume coming out of Sacramento and Detroit than the public. So yeah, I like this game.
I agree with that. I think Willie Cauley-Stein is one we already talked about. Now, what's interesting is, let's talk about this for a second. So what does Jaeger do against this Detroit front court? That's the question. They haven't played against them this year. And with Marvin Bagley, he sat out on the second of a back-to-back. There's no reason to believe he doesn't play today, unless you know something I don't.
I expect him. I have him in.
Right. So do I. I don't. There's really no reason. He just sat I'm pretty sure just to kind of keep him fresh and to be safe. But among the guys in this front court, you have Cauley-Stein, you have Giles, you have Kostakufos, you have Bagley. Like, is this a spot where you want to run Bjelica heavy minutes at the 4 here? I guess you could. I guess teams could do it, but it does seem like a spot where you might see a bigger front court duo here, which could mean that one of these bigger guys sees more run at the 4.
Yeah, they are starting to get a little crowded. Seeing how that shakes out
makes it tough.
Makes it a little nervous. Makes me a little nervous.
Makes me very nervous, which is why I'd feel more comfortable with just saying, okay, I can rely on Cauley-Stein seems like the guy here that would be likeliest to have the safest minutes, right? And that's kind of where I'm sitting on the.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to need you to talk me down or agree with me here. Pistons. Massive pace up spot for them. Andre Drummond, 9,800 on FanDuel, 9,100 on DK, $34 on Yahoo, where he is, I believe, my clear-cut number 1 play. But we'll talk FanDuel and DK for now. How do you want to manage Drummond? I know people are sour on him right now, but to me, he is incredible in this spot.
Yes, he is. It's a very, 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 very good spot. And I will have you know that this Sacramento Kings team is allowing more rebounds to the center position than any other team, but not just by a few, right? Like, everyone else is bunched in there, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 more rebounds per game than the next. The Lakers are allowing the second most rebounds, 16.9 per game, 16.9. The Kings are at 18.4. They gap them by 1.5 per game. Like, they've just been torched on the boards by opposing bigs. This could be a 25 rebound game for Andre Drummond, and I wouldn't be surprised even remotely.
He was my number 1 yesterday, and he flopped, I'm being told, so he can't ever be good again.
Right.
Got to ignore him.
Yeah, well,
whew.
It's funny because
glad we caught that.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. Drummond's shooting 50% this year. Okay. He shot 2 of 6 from the free throw line. He's shooting 51% from the line. He shot 2 of 12 from the field. He attempted 3 threes, by the way. Missed them all. If he shot at his average, 6 for 12 and made, 1 or 2 more free throws, you're talking about like a 14-17 double-double with 2 blocks, 3 steals, and assists. And that line looks a whole lot worse. But he shot 2 for 12. Shot 16% from the field. When does Drummond do that? Very, very rarely. It was a bad shooting day, and he still had seven. He shot 2 for 12 and still had 38 fantasy points. So, yeah, guys struggle sometimes. His shooting was off, and he still didn't totally destroy you. So,
Did he
in
really
this
take
spot,
three threes yesterday?
he attempted 3 threes. Yeah,
Jesus.
I know. I actually just pulled them up. I can't imagine Drummond had the ball at maybe he had the ball at the end of the quarters on a rebound and he just heaved it, like where all of Ben Simmons threes come from.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It seems unlikely. Let's see. So his 3-pointers, I'm watching them now. So oh no, these are legitimate spot up through. Oh,
Bad.
oh man, this is good stuff. Yeah, these are legitimate. Actually. So the first one was this one. It says video not available yet. It was a 51 footer. So my guess is that was, and then the other one was an inbound to Drummond.
They drew that one up.
He knocked both of them off the front of the rim.
I bet he did.
One of them says
he hit the rim. He hit the rim.
Yep. One of them says video not available. My guess is because that was like a half court or more than a half court heave.
So because of this pace spot, because of how poor, not that Blake Griffin is some fantastic rebounder or a rebounder at all. I love Drummond and Blake here. It's a great spot. Their ownership isn't super crazy on FanDuel for me, so I'm gonna have a lot of Drummond. I'm gonna have a lot of Blake. I'm gonna be exploring Reggie Bullock land for 4,500 in a pace up spot. That's the kind of spot where I'm kind of looking for someone like that. More opportunities for him to just do whatever it is that Reggie Bullock does. That's probably it for me. Reggie Jackson on DK, I can get talked into though, but he's also 35% owned, so do with that what you will.
Reggie Bullock's just not good, but the guy continues to get a ton of run. It's a pace up spot. I think you could do worse. But the one I wanted to talk about earlier is Reggie Jackson. Like I think Reggie Jackson right now, if it's him or Dennis Schroeder at basically the same cost on DraftKings, I'm going to go with Reggie Jackson here. I don't think it's a bad spot for him. And I mean, hell, Reggie hasn't exactly been great, but neither has Schroeder. None of the inexpensive guys here are really going to do you many favors. So why not go with the guy who is going to get a really nice pace up spot and should play, 28 or so minutes. He actually got 31 minutes last game, which was nice to see. And then Ish Smith, it looks like he's still. I don't know. This will be interesting. If Ish Smith plays, I'm definitely downgrading Reggie Jackson.
Yeah, he's doubtful. I don't have him in right now.
Right. But actually, I don't even know how much I would downgrade him because like Bruce Brown would probably just lose a bunch of minutes or not play anymore. So I don't think it might not even make that big of a difference, right? Like Calderon could just stop playing or something. It wouldn't be that hard.
I would assume Calderon stops seeing 20 minutes a game.
Right. So exactly. So it wouldn't be that tough to just keep getting the same minutes from Reggie Jackson. I think he's a perfectly fine play. He's cheap. And that's kind of all you're looking. 52 on FanDuel. Like, would you rather have Derek White at 55 or Reggie Jackson at 52? For me, that's a pretty easy answer.
I think we have different answers.
Oh, you'd rather have Derek White?
I would rather have Derek White.
Really?
Yeah.
That's great.
Reggie Jackson at 26% ownership. Derek White right now at 11. But even if they were the same, it's probably Derek White.
Wow. I'm just not a believer. I'm just not a believer in Derek White. That's where we differ. I have a very tough time buying into this. That's
more of a minutes thing for me than anything else.
So my thing is, I haven't been buying into the 80% shooting, so I can't start playing him now. When I do, he will shoot 15% from the floor or go back to, regress back to where he was. It's definitely closer than I'm making it seem, but both of them in pace-up spots.
Yeah.
And I think Reggie Jackson, to me, just offers a little bit more, and I would hope that a bit more peripheral upside, too. But neither of them are particularly good players.
Like I have White in for 5 more minutes than Jackson, and that's sort of the. That's
Oh,
what
do
gets
you
me there.
really?
Yeah, I have White in for 32. I have Reggie Jackson in for 27.
Oh, wow. Well, that's okay.
So
I have
like,
White in for less than that. I have White at 30.
okay. So that's probably making up a lot of my gap between the two. It's just
Right.
a minutes thing.
And I have Reggie Jackson projected at 28 fantasy points.
I have
White at
him at
25.
I have Reggie Jackson at 28, and I have White at probably way more than that. Yeah, 28.6.
Okay. Yeah, you have White higher projected than I do.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I think we're through this. It is not appealing.
No, it's not. Get some golf lineups in there.
Yeah, it's a good day to like spend some time with your family.
Yeah, certainly
Now,
is.
don't get me wrong. You should come back and watch the deeper dive at 5 o'clock and watch live before lock at 6.
And
I'm
then
not telling you to skip our stuff, but then spend time with your family. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's ugly. It's one of those slates where you end up playing a lot of guys that you don't want to root for, and those aren't fun.
Right.
It's not fun to be angry at Bryn Forbes at 9 o'clock at night.
Why did Patty Mills ruin my good lineup? Yeah, no, that sucks actually.
Damn you, Hamidou Diallo. Alrighty, guys. NBA Strategy is the promo code. 50% off your first month. Any package you select, promo code or coupon code, you can use those terms interchangeably. Maybe we'll put a slash on there in the near future. Deep dive coming out from Adam in the early afternoon. Deeper dive going from 5 to 6. And then I'll be on live before lock tonight, I assume with Fast Eddie Fear, breaking down this 4-game juggernaut. Laffy, what else you got for me?
That's it, man. Tune into the shows tonight and let's go about our day. Enjoy a night. We got what was it 10:30, 10:36 Eastern time? All right, not bad. We pulled it off in an hour 15. Better than normal.
What are you gonna do? It was a good chat.
What else are you gonna do at 10 o'clock a.m. on a Thursday, right?
Real work? Come on.
Exactly.
Come on. You guys can get back to your TPS reports now. We're going to get out of here. Best of luck, everybody. Love you guys. We'll talk to you again later.